Special tribute to the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra. We have exclusive appearances by some of the people closest to him. In Los Angeles, Frank's close friend, Steve Lawrence. In New York, a man who Sinatra claimed had better pipes than him, Vic Damone. In Los Angeles, the legendary comedian who worked with Frank for many years, Don Rickles. In Las Vegas, Debbie Reynolds, who starred with Frank in the movie The Tender Trap. At the Foxwood Casino in Connecticut, Paul Anka, who translated the lyrics to Frank's legendary song, My Way. And in Los Angeles, one of Frank's most important partners in music, the brilliant producer and composer, Quincy Jones. They are all next on Larry King Live. Welcome to this rather going to be a tough edition of Larry King Live. You have seen excerpts of our interview with Sinatra. That will air in its entirety one night next week on an edition of Larry King Live. We have an outstanding panel of guests. The first question will be the same for all. We'll start with the musician in the group, Mr. Jones. His legacy.
One of the greatest artists, performers, and human beings of the 20th century.
Steve?
Well, his legacy, fortunately for all of us, is still with us. I mean, his body of work on records and tapes and his films will be here for generations unborn to enjoy.
Don?
Well, we all know, as Quincy and Steve said so beautifully, his music is something, but I always like to think of as being the guy's guy, putting his arm around the little guy and letting you know you're a friend.
He was a tough guy. I'm going to get to all that. But basically, he was the popular music of the 20th century, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
Every genre.
Every genre.
Right. Even rappers. I remember taking LL Cool J to see him, and he said he's an OG. You know, that's the sixth decade of his career. Yeah. He's original gangster means, you know.
Yeah.
Dick, Sinatra referred to you, in fact, he referred to Steve a lot. He would always tell me how much he thought of Steve, and he thought you had the best pipes. That must have made you feel, how did that make you feel? All these years you'd hear the stories about Sinatra talking about you.
Well, it's almost like a curse, you know, because every time I went out to sing, and people expected me, because Mr. Sinatra said these wonderful things about me, and people said, okay, show me, you know, but he was, his legacy to me, I think he's just the greatest teacher. He's the greatest teacher. I've had people say, how can I learn to sing like that? I said, listen to Sinatra. If you want to learn, that's the way to do it. Right, Steve?
100%.
What was he able, before we bring Debbie in, what did he do? Because in an interview once a long time ago with me, he honestly said, I don't know what I'm doing. He says, to Steve Lawrence, they all sing the same. We're just guys singing.
No, that's not true. Actually, he literally opened the door for all of us who came after him. And as a result, I think Vic will agree with me, and Paul and everybody here tonight, we all owe him a great debt. I mean, this man approached American popular songs like nobody did before him. And as a result, he took that 32 bars of music and made it a mini screenplay. He suddenly involved you in that story. And he made you feel like you were the only one in that audience he was talking to. And that was part of his uniqueness, I believe.
Debbie, what was it like to act with him?
Oh, well, he was a great kisser. And he was a great guy, you know. What Don said is true. He'd just take his arms and put them around you. He was a very sweet gentleman, you know. He had his other sides, but I never saw that. And we all loved him very much. He'd take a lyric and it became a poem, and he's the legend of all time.
The death, Steve, everyone saw you leaving that house early this morning. What time did you get there? How did you hear about it?
We heard about it from a mutual agent, Elliot Wiseman, and I heard about it just about 11 o'clock. 10
minutes after he died?
Just about 11, shortly after that, and we got to the house around midnight. Barbara had come back from the hospital, and we were there till the wee hours in the morning. The children were there, Nancy and Tina and Frank Jr. and Barbara, and a couple of friends and some people who have worked around the Sinatra household. And
what was it, just talking?
Yeah, and everybody there, they were all pulling together, you know, at times like that, and it was very comforting. And the Sinatras are strong people, all of them, and
You
And
looked distraught leaving. You were really.
Well, you know, something like that when it hits you, I mean, growing up in the shadows of this musical giant, and then over the years becoming friends and sitting across the table from him, and still at times I think maybe all of us feel that way. You just don't believe you're talking to Frank Sinatra.
You were there this afternoon.
Yes, I was.
You was at that house a lot.
Yes.
You and Frank were social friends,
Yeah.
traveled together, etc. What was it like today?
Well,
Now,
today,
some hours after
oddly enough,
Steve.
you know, walking into the house and seeing that living room and seeing the bar and the stools. We used to sit on Christmas Eve. He always invited us over, my wife and I, for a drink, and Steve and everybody here knows he was great that way. And, of course, when I came over, he yelled at me. But when I'd say, Merry Christmas, Frank, he'd go, why? You know,
I knew we'll warm up.
and I had to
with you,
show him that I had
You've
my
been
act.
serious for 6.5
well,
minutes.
you know, rest his soul, he would want us to laugh.
I know.
you
He would.
Sure.
That he would. He
Actually,
would.
we're here celebrating his life.
Yeah.
That's what
right.
we really should be
So
doing.
anyway, when I saw the chairs and all, it touched me for a moment, and then I got a little lump in my throat thinking of those.
How are they doing, the family?
As Steve said, she's a wonderful woman. Barbara Sinatra is just like strong. The children weren't there. The children, they're grown-ups, you know. Frank Jr. wasn't there, but I know Frank Jr.
How did you hear about the death?
From our mutual manager, Elliot Weissman.
Oh, he was
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah, he called collect.
Vic, how
Yeah.
did you hear?
I heard this morning about 2 a.m. My publicist called me and wanted to let me know.
Now, what?
He knew what I thought about him.
Some people say your mother can get to be 90, 95 years old. She's expecting to die, but when she dies, it's still terrible. Now, everyone knew Frank was sick and that Frank wasn't going to perform again and that things weren't too good. So you can't say you were shocked. What were you?
No, I wasn't shocked. We were, you know, kind of waiting because, you know, we knew that he was ill. He wasn't too well. And it's funny, and we, you know, we were all expecting it, but when it finally happens, you know, it just took a part of my life, you know, because if it hadn't been for Mr. Sinatra, I wouldn't be a singer today, I guess. I mean, he was my mentor. He was my teacher.
Quincy, how'd you hear?
The same time, at 2 o'clock in the morning, from all over the world, people started calling. I couldn't believe it. Not that television goes on and you just get hit from both sides. But we're in the process of doing a show that Steve's involved in for the 30th in Vegas. So we've been working on it for a month now.
Frank?
Tribute to Frank.
Still going to do it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just as though he were there. We're doing the same set that he was doing, the same arrangements with Nelson Riddle, Billy May.
Debbie, how did you hear?
I turned the television on, and there was Frank singing, and then it flashed that he had passed away.
First reaction?
Well, my heart sank, and then I felt I'm happy that he's not any longer suffering. I mean, it was hard to watch in the last few months that this wonderful fun, he had a great life, and it's not fun as a friend to watch someone suffering.
One of his last public appearances, I guess, was at your birthday party.
Yes. Yeah, and by the way, Steve got him to get up and sing Happy Birthday to me.
To
And then it was over. I walked over and said, did I ask you to sing?
We'll be back with more and more guests. Don't go away.
Fill my heart with song. Let me swing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Larry King Live is brought to you by AT&T. It's all within your reach.
We're back. I'll get a great picture to show you here in a minute. But first, let's bring in another member of our panel from Shamrock, Texas, Ernest Borgnine. There's that famous face. Mr. Borgnine worked with Mr. Sinatra in a movie called From Here to Eternity. He was the bad guy in that movie. He wound up killing Frank in that movie.
That's it.
Frank wound up with an Academy Award for that movie. Ernie, what are your memories of working with him?
Well, I'll tell you. The very first day that we got together, I was supposed to be playing the piano, and he's out there dancing. We're rehearsing. And Fred Zinnemann says, okay, let's go. And we started in. And Frank says, come on. He said, Fatso, he said, well, we're trying to dance over here. Come on, knock it off, will you? And I stood up. And as I stood up, he looked up, and he said, "My God, he's 10 feet tall." Well, I was petrified. Just from being in his presence and with Burt Lancaster and all the rest of them watching. And I talked to Frank later about that scene, you know, and he said, "Are you kidding? I was petrified too."
Did you know, Ernie, that he was going to be that good an actor?
Well, I'd always liked him when he was making his musicals and everything else. I thought he was fine. I mean, here's a guy that you know, I didn't know very much about dancing, and he danced with Gene Kelly. He was fine. He turned out to be one hell of an actor, I thought, because I worked like a son of a gun to beat him out of that man with the, you know, that man with the golden arm.
Yeah. That's right. You did beat him in that. He was nominated. You won for Marty. Right?
That's right.
We got a great picture to show everybody here that Quincy brought along. You want to see it? No, we got it on tape, Quince. Okay. Look at that. On the left, Quincy Jones is 11 years old. Count Basie in the middle, and there's Francis Albert on the right. What was this for?
This was for It Might As Well Be Swing, when we did Fly Me to the Moon.
Yeah.
That album?
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. We had 60 people in there. They were the extras from None But the Brave. He just directed that film, and we'd just come back from Hawaii.
Was he, this is for all of you, start with you and you. Was he difficult to work with, honest?
Let me say something. Like Miles Davis, he could act as tough as he wants. When he starts to sing, all of that beauty and soul comes out. Yeah, he could act tough.
But you better not have a note.
So could Buddy Rich. They both were copying Tommy Darcy.
But you better not have a note.
Oh, no, no, he didn't
You
play
better get
that.
it right the first time.
That's right. Oh, you better do it right. Yeah. But he was beautiful.
There you see, there you're working with him right there in that that historic album, of which people can buy the whole tape of the making of that album. Don, truth, working with, difficult?
Oh, no, he was great. You know, he used to stand in the wings, and when I was on, he'd put on the monitor, "Get off." I just said, "Good evening." He said, "Get off." And he said, "Why is the Jew on so long?" That was my name for a while. Why was the Jew on so long?
But he was very good to you.
Yes, he was.
Your whole career. No,
yes, he
no,
was. On
honestly.
the airplane, he let me, when the plane took off, I ran down the runway, and if I caught the plane, I was living.
You got a ride.
He was very good to me. Oh, Charlie Prompt. He went, "We're leaving now."
Oh, yeah,
and I was exhausted. You know, my wife, I used to throw her into the car as the car was moving to catch the plane. It was a whole thing.
He was on time then, as well.
Oh, yeah. Man was a clock.
Steve?
Yeah, he was wonderful to work with. Of course, Edie and I spent about a year.
You opened for him.
Yes, we spent a year with Frank, traveling literally all over the world with him. And he was wonderful to work with because we were all in the same arena musically. And he loved the music that we were doing. He related to it. Most of it was his. And so it was terrific. And Edie, he adored Edie. So it was a pleasure.
The night, the tragedy of your son, he flew you back, got you back, right? From Atlanta, weren't you in Atlanta?
That was, yeah, Steve Ross, who...
Steve Ross, but
yeah.
Frank was involved.
Yeah,
he was very close to you at that time,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, he was.
Vic, did you ever feel inhibited by him? And by that I mean when someone in your own field becomes that big.
Oh, sure. You know, he was so good. I mean, the man was just a master. That I really never even tried hard with my career because I said, I'll never get close to him as a talent. The man has everything. He was just so good. And by the way, I'm sitting here in New York, and you guys are all in L.A., and I'm sitting here in the studio by myself, and I'm saying, I wish I were with you guys there, having some fun with you, because Frank would have loved it.
Yeah, he would have. He loved good times.
He would have loved to have been part of all this, and he is. I think he's with us right now. I'm sure he is.
Did Vic Lou?
Did I what?
Just stop, Don.
Oh,
what did he say? What did he say?
He asked if you
Don?
knew him. Debbie, did you ever think about dating him?
Oh, my goodness. I wouldn't be sexy enough for Frank. He liked a lot of women. I mean, you know, he had a lot of fabulous women in his life, and of course his lovely wife Barbara and Nancy. You know, no, I never thought of Frank that way because he really kind of advised me when we did the Tender Trap together. He told me to come, we were going to have lunch, which he never did that. And so we went to lunch, and he said, remember this, don't ever marry a singer.
Hey, Debbie.
That's what he said.
We'll take a break. Paul Anka will be joining us. We'll be back with the whole group. Your calls included. Don't go away.
She hates California because it's crowded and down. That's why the lady, that is why the lady, that's why lady
I guess we're calling this a celebration of Frank Sinatra. Frank's, that's what it is. What, Quincy, what did he do musically? We know what we heard, but you know it from the other end. What did he do?
He delivered the lyrics like an actor did. He pulled you into the story. But most of all, he phrased like a jazz musician, because they came from another school that sat in the row of seats with the Pied Pipers and Joe Stafford, and they watched musicians with the stars in. And musicians played until they got tired, and they'd make a modulation. They'd all get up and sing, grab your hat and grab your coat, on sunny side of the street or something, after they got through playing. But they listened to Ziggy Elman, all these great musicians, and Frank phrased. Miles Davis told me he learned it was very much influenced by his phrasing, where he puts the notes in the bar. And that was so hip about Frank, and that's why his music was so timeless.
And now, Steve, you got a great voice, and you're a tremendous singer, and you've been at the top a long time. When you heard him, did you say, I can't do that? What do we know?
Frank had great instinct, and you can't teach that. You have to be born with it, and he had great courage. He had the courage of his convictions. When he read something, he said, this is the way I understand this. And he convinced that audience that he was right. Melodically, I mean, he took great liberties. And prior to Frank Sinatra, Quincy, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, prior to Frank Sinatra vocally, everybody sang pretty much, you know, how the notes were written. They got all 4 beats in the bar. Or
didn't hold a consonant.
Yeah, and they did exactly what was it. This man took liberties, took license, went with his gut instinct, and he was right.
Vic, when you heard him sing, did you say to yourself, I can't do that?
No, I was just enthralled with his interpretation of the lyrics. It was always so real. In fact, someone asked me once what was my favorite recording, if I could pick a favorite recording of Frank's, and I said, you know, you can't, because every song that Frank would sing, every song he recorded, it was like a soliloquy. Yeah. Think about that, guys. Everything he did was perfect. Well thought out. You'd be backstage, Don. Yeah.
Right? You're off, and then you close coming on together. And you'd hear him sing from that perspective, or watch him work. To a show business veteran, what was it like to watch him on a stage?
Well, it was kind of exciting because, as we all know, he was one of a kind, you know.
The way he just...
Yeah, well, his moves, you know. And he, you know, I had better moves, but I didn't want to discuss it with him. But, you know, he'd do that, you know, and he'd get the audience really going. And then, of course, I was on first, so, you know, they were all locked up already. But,
you know, also his peers and his colleagues were his fans, which was very rare in an industry where people are supposed to be onto their own. Everybody was a big Sinatra fan, even though you did what he did. I mean, you looked up to this man and said, you know, he was the reason that most of us got into this business. You asked me earlier if you said, could I do that well? No, I think when you heard him, you said, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Ernie, was it tough? We imagine there's the image of Sinatra. I know you're an actor. Was it tough to rough him around?
Was it tough to what?
Beat him up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't make you out, Larry.
No, in the film From Here to Eternity, you had to pretty much beat him up, right?
That's right.
Was that tough to do when you're dealing with this?
But you never saw me beat him up. You never saw me beat him up, Larry. It's when he told his story to Montgomery Clift. That's right.
There's the scene in the bar.
Yeah, that one too. And I whispered something to Monty Clift, and he took offense. He hit me a pretty good clip with that seat, I'll tell you.
Debbie, as an actor, he was someone who came prepared, right? You had to get it first take or you're in trouble.
That's right.
Debbie?
But he was a good actor. He was right there on the ball all the time.
Debbie,
yeah,
is that true?
He'd come in ready to go, and he wanted to shoot the scene right one take, and then he was finished with it, because he liked to be spontaneous and feel really comfortable. He didn't like doing the scene a lot. You came in and you did it one time.
Another thing great about him was his sense of humor. He took off a lot from you. I used to see him and you. I used to see him in clubs. You did things to him unbelievable. Frank, where's your graham crackers?
Look how big he became.
You made him.
Where was he going to go if I didn't pick on him?
You really your first time you rapped him, were you a little scared, a little nervous?
No, I went home and I found my stove on fire. but otherwise it's fine.
Frank did other things too. He painted, and from his paintings, a collection of ties, and I'm wearing one tonight. It's a Frank Sinatra tie. The emblem on the label, this is from one of his paintings. He was a pretty good painter.
Yes, he
Stopped
was.
painting at the end, though, right? He had not...
Yeah.
We'll be back with more on Larry King Live. We'll be including your phone calls. Don't go away.
Want to sell that tie?
So in love with Miss Frances O'Toole, we came here to ask her to go. I hope that she don't turn me down, 'cause she's the best dancer in town. When Frances dances with me, holy gee, I'm as gay as can be. I take her to dances, 'cause that's what I love. She fits in me arms like a motorman's glove. Oh, the Bowery, we won't go there anymore. I wear a tuxedo and gee how it fits. I look like the head waiter up at the Ritz. And she wears her gown that's got 28 slits. When Frances dances with me.
Our illustrious panel is joined now from the Foxwood Casino in Connecticut. That's the largest casino in the United States, and the most successful one is on an Indian reservation. The man who opened that casino was Frank Sinatra. The man playing there now is Paul Anka, and he joins us. We finally got our satellites straightened out. Paul, you and first of all, there's a plaque there commemorating Sinatra's appearance there, isn't there?
Yes, there is. That's right, Larry.
What's that room like to work?
It's a comfortable room. It's high-tech. It's about 1,600 seats. Nice crowd, nice environment, good staff.
Your feeling about hearing the news today?
Well, we all expected it, obviously. You're never quite ready for it. My wife, Ann, called me last night, in the middle of the night, and Steve Wynn and I had dinner prior to that in New York. And I called Steve, and we conversed a lot more about it. We were kind of reminiscing to some people at the table with us, because we're all doing that gig out in Vegas the end of May with Quincy and everyone. And you're moved by it. You know, I was quite emotional. We've lost someone, a great entertainer. Society lost a very charitable man.
Did you write My Way for him?
Yes, I did.
That was a French song, right? A French tune.
Yeah.
And then
as to where it wound up.
Right. And it took a while before you recorded it, right?
Actually, I spent some time with him in Miami and came home, wrote it, and I think he recorded it about 6 months later.
Did he like it right away?
The reaction from Frank on a lot of things, if you got a kooky out of him, that meant he was hilarious. He was not an animated guy in that sense all the time.
He also slept rather late, right, Don? Sammy Kahn tells stories that when Frank says see you in the morning, it meant 3 o'clock.
What do you, I don't make up his bed. How do I know?
I'm asking you. You work with him, you travel.
Well, I don't check when he sleeps. You think I stand over the bed, he's sleeping?
No, I mean...
No, well, most of us...
Man.
Most of us
he did sleep late. Well, he had to dry out.
I think...
But, you know, sorry.
That's what we always have to remember too, because Frank, outside of being this great artist, this man knew how to play as well as he did work, and he could party the art out of party, the ART.
Oh yeah.
Nothing left but a PY.
We had a thing. We were in Monte Carlo, and you know he loved Monte Carlo, so we get invited to Monte Carlo. Frank says, "Come on, join us." Barbara and I, we go to Monte Carlo, and Jilly, rest his soul, that was his good friend and my good friend, all of us, you know, Jilly. And when we got up in the morning, we were in the Hermitage, and he was in the Hotel de Paris, in the penthouse, you know, and Prince Rene was making the room up. But he was in there, and Jilly said, "Listen, every morning when Frank gets up, don't leave the room till I give you the signal." And like, I thought it was Diary of Anne Frank. We were in the room with the curtains, and we go out, and you see a pink napkin, Jilly said. That means Frank's up. A white napkin means, I swear to this God, a white napkin means stay in bed. We were in bed once for 3 days, waiting for Jilly to come out on the balcony with a pink napkin. You know the Pope with the smoke? That was faster.
We'll be right back. This is a celebration of Sinatra. Don't go away.
The record shows I took the booze and did it my way. My way.
a celebration of the life of Francis Albert Sinatra, dead at 82 and a half years old. We will replay our entire interview with Frank one night next week on Larry King Live. Our panelists are Steve Lawrence, here in Los Angeles. In New York, Vic Damone. Here in L.A., Don Rickles. In Las Vegas, Debbie Reynolds, who starred with Frank in Tender Trap. In Shamrock, Texas, Ernie Borgnine, Academy Award winner himself, who was in the movie, of course, where Frank won his Best Supporting Actor role. In Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut, Paul Anka. Here in the L.A. Bureau, the brilliant musician Quincy Jones. Joining us now by phone is Tony Bennett, the man that Frank once called the best singer who ever lived. Tony, I've heard that you have had a really rough time with this today.
Yeah, because you know, I just felt it was I wanted to cancel out for the one night, but we've organized it now. It's a Sunday night where they're going to have a service for him, and Caesar's Palace was nice enough to you know, close out for that night in honor of Sinatra. In fact, at 8:30 tonight, the whole strip is going black, and in honor of and you know, in great respect for Sinatra.
Notice every light in Las Vegas goes off tonight at 8:30.
Every single light in Las Vegas will go black.
For about a minute or two, yeah.
But you know, I have Steve Wynn here also sitting next to me. I'm at his fabulous hotel here. You might want to talk to him also.
I sure will.
All right.
Because Steve employed Frank, did he not?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
At the Golden.
And Tony, how did you feel when he said you were the best?
Well, it actually changed my whole life. And you know, one time at Radio City, I was sitting with his wonderful wife Barbara, and I was watching him, enjoying him, and he turned around to the audience and he said, "I want you to meet not only my best friend in show business, but my best friend personally." And he had me stand up. Well, I've never gotten over that. To this day, you know, we just became the best of friends forever. And it's, you know, it's Frank Sinatra, I guess everybody knows, will live forever and ever. Mm-hmm. And it's
as long as there's music.
Unbelievable loss. You know, Larry, what are we going to do with that Frank Sinatra world, right?
Yeah.
What do we do without it?
No, it'll always be a Frank Sinatra world. As long as there's music, there'll be Frank Sinatra.
That's right. Here's Steve, okay? I'll have to put you over to Steve.
All right. Steve Wynn, you know, Rickles, want to ask him? Steve Wynn, who owns Las Vegas.
Yeah, I understand he's going broke.
Steve.
We got Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett. Oh,
we're sitting and eating in Francesco's restaurant.
Steve, I understand one of the fountains cost you $6.8 billion, and your wife got $6.9 billion, and you're short $7 trillion.
Don Rickles.
Steve.
Right,
oh
Steve.
no.
Sinatra.
That's how I feel.
True.
Steve, what was it like to employ Sinatra?
Oh, it was the privilege of a lifetime. I mean, the memories, the times of being with Frank and Don are the things, you know, I was going over it today, and tonight we were at the hotel. We're getting ready to shut the lights off, as Tony said, and just thinking about the craziness, the cut-up, the fun with Dean and Martin and Frank and Liza.
Tell them about the days
Don
at the
Rickles.
Golden Nugget. Tell Steve. The Golden Nugget days, Steve.
It was the greatest.
They were great.
Hey, Don, he called me up on my birthday this year on January 27th. He was having a good day. I mean, my feet didn't touch the ground for 3 days.
That's great.
Oh, man.
We want to say goodbye. Steve, thanks so much. We want to say goodbye to Tony. But
Okay,
Paul, hold on, Tony.
Yeah, Larry.
Yeah, hold on one second. Paul Anka, loyalty was a big factor of Frank's, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
If he liked you, he liked you.
He hung in with you. He was a man's man. And once you had his word, that was it.
Right, Don, right? Right. You wouldn't want to be... What are you doing?
Well, I think I'm on an airplane. Check, right.
You wouldn't want to be his enemy.
No, certainly not. I have a friend of mine that was his enemy. He's dead.
Frank was tough.
Yeah, it was tough, but he was great to his friends. I mean, he liked Quincy, he loved Steve, he liked me. Yeah. He wasn't too crazy about you. That I tell you off the record. I'm sorry, God rest his soul, he's not here to tell you. He didn't like you.
Then he faked it when he was nice.
Yeah, well, he would try to be nice. He leaned over, if you notice. Look at the interview close. He's leaning over, spitting up a little bit on the side.
Larry, I'm not sure, but I think the interview he did with you was probably not only the last one, but I think it was probably the only interview he did on television in years.
I think since Ed Murrow, person to person. He didn't like attention like that kind. He was.
You know what I noticed, which is interesting? He didn't like to be touched too much. You know, with the putting the arm around, like he has that same problem. Quincy doesn't have the problem because Quincy and I like each other. He's annoying. But he never liked if you made too much of
Don, he didn't want to touch you, but he touched a lot of women.
Yeah. God bless that,
Larry, this is Paul.
Yeah.
Larry, the other thing about Frank was if you had the wrong perfume on or toilet water, he would vacate a room so quickly or have you thrown out. I always remember that about him. Once he went, "What's that? Out!"
Paul's got to leave us because he's got to work. Thanks for joining us, Paul, and thanks for your contributions to the world of music and, of course, to the Sinatra, the entire concept of Frank Sinatra, and, of course, My Way, which became his anthem.
Larry?
Tony, thanks, Paul.
Have Steve Lawrence tell you about what he said on the Carson show one time about what Sinatra did in Scotland to a piano player. It'll be a good story.
Thanks, Tony. Best of luck. Tony Bennett, Steve Wynn, and Paul Anka have to leave us. When we come back, more with the panel on Larry King Live. Don't go away.
Small town blue, they have all melted away. When you start in old New York, if I can make it there, I'll make it. Anyway, it's up to you.
Boys were saying a poem. You know, he could take a lyric and bring it right to you as a scene.
When you were having your problems in those terrible days involved in that triangle, was he at all in touch with you?
No, nobody was. It's just one of those things that happens in life. Well, Frank was not a guy that called up, you know, and just chatted. I think he would with the boys, but he's not a person that hangs out with girlfriends other than if they were his special girlfriend.
Were you surprised at how well he stuck up for Mia Farrow?
Yeah, he did. Well, he loved her, and they had a wonderful love together. And Frank was very loyal to everyone. When he loved you, he loved you. If he's your friend, he's your friend.
That's right.
He was a good friend to everyone that's there, all the boys, and we all know the special people in his lives, and whomever he touched, we'll never forget him, and the world will not, and we'll never lose him, because it's, as everyone is saying there, that his music will live forever.
Vic, at the end, you did a performance, Steve was on it, at the birthday party, where it was obvious that Frank was having problems. And not cognizant of everything happening. It was obvious to anyone who watched it. Was it difficult for you? And you were there too, Don, right? Was that difficult?
Oh, sure. Yeah. But you know what I would like to say is I'd like to ask the guys there if they remember the great times that we used to have in Vegas at the Sands Hotel Health Club.
Oh, yeah. The Health Club?
You know, it was Jerry Lewis, Jack and Trotter, and myself. We started that, you know, every night going at 6 o'clock. We'd go to the Health Club.
Before the show? I mean, like 6 p.m.
And then Frank started coming, and Sammy came, and of course Rickles was always there, and Steve. And we would have a ball.
Yeah.
May I ask?
Right? Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah.
What would happen?
In fact, Vic, you remember he had bathrobes made up for all of us.
Everybody
That's
had
right.
their names.
And I was the rhino. I had a rhino's head on the back of it. He made up these crazy things.
I was
we all
boy
had
singer.
bathrobes.
Yeah.
Boy singer?
Boy singer.
Boy singer. Dean Martin. Dean was the big Dago.
Yeah.
I was the little Dago.
What did you do in the Health Club? I mean, what
Well, in my
we'd have
case,
fun. And
yeah, there with firecrackers and all that kind of thing, a lot of booze. And
Want to tell them the story that happened to you in the...
well, one day, you know, Frank, that was his life, to get up and say, how can we screw up Rickles? Man, I think he dreamed that in his sleep. How can we get Rickles?
What did he do?
So we're all in the steam room. Remember, we were all with the towels around us. And he turns around, and I'm doing the jokes. I'm saying, Frank, the voice is over. Forget about it. Lay down. You're finished. With all my stuff. And all of a sudden, he says, I've had it with you. and I'm completely nude, and he throws me out right by the swimming pool, and I'm standing there.
And he locked the door.
And he locked the door. And everybody, and the Jews sitting by the pool went,
Oh.
and, you know, it was exciting because Spider was very...
Debbie, I know you got to go. Debbie, thanks so much.
They're leaving me with quite a vision of Don Rickles standing there.
Not a pretty sight.
Well, from here we can only go up.
Well, Debbie, who knows? Someday.
We'll be back with more of Mr. Borgnine, Mr. Damone, Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Rickles, and Mr. Jones. Right after this.
Hey, now that's a good idea, baby boy. You'd make a good notary public.
He'd make a better coroner, one of them laughing coroners.
I'm the one that's going into politics.
What's going to be your platform, Big Sam?
Repeal the 14th and the 20th Amendment, take the vote away from the women, and make slaves out of them.
Hey, now that's something that's real constructive.
Hey, will it cost much?
Oh, no, we'd have the price controls. No inflation on slaves.
Vote for Sam Harmon. Help stamp out mental health.
You got a better platform?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Pay off your own party. Settle for an appointment.
Yeah, now that's real deep thinking. Gentlemen, I'd like for you to meet our latest senator.
What a terrible thought.
Go so fast, but we do have someone on the phone. Let's take a call. Philadelphia, hello.
Hi, Larry, and I just wanted to say that everybody in Philadelphia here has been sharing what an influence Frank has been on their upbringing. We have all listened to Frank on Sundays, and it's amazing the stories that have been swapped here today.
I wonder how many people around the world are doing that. Sinatra stories that affect them. Do you have a question?
My question was, if you could sum up Frank as a friend in maybe 1 or 2 words, what would it be?
Let's go around. Steve.
The best.
The best friend you could have. Don.
Complete class.
Well said, Don.
What is this, a test?
No. I'm admiring.
I don't need you to okay what I say.
I'm not. I know you don't.
Go on and ask him.
Loyal and generous.
Okay.
Okay.
Debbie.
Do we win anything?
Debbie. Oh, that's right. Debbie's gone.
Debbie's gone. Snap out of it. Read the cards. Find out who's here. That's Quincy. I'm Don. That's Steve. Clear up your glasses. Go back to Utah.
Ernie in
Vic is in New York.
I know Vic. No, stop it, Steve.
Okay.
Ernie left.
Ernie.
Yeah.
Sum up.
Ask him where Debbie is.
Ernie's still in his station wagon. He don't know about that. Leave Ernie alone. He's trying to figure out what he's doing there.
By the way, Ernie, what are you doing in Shamrock? Why are you in Shamrock, Texas?
He's a rodeo rider.
Now I'm making a little film over here called Abilene in Shamrock, Texas. Don't ask me how, why, or anything. I'm here.
Vic Damone.
But I wanted to say one thing.
Yes, Ernie.
I wanted to say one thing. I remember every time I saw Frank, I always used to speak to him in Italian. And he always got a big kick when I called him Frangiscone. I would like to say tonight, Frangiscone, addio.
Oh, beautiful. Very sweet. Beautiful.
Vic, sum up Frank in a couple words.
Forever a friendship. I mean, the friendship is he was so loyal. It was a forever thing with him. But if we have a moment, I'd love to tell one little story about Vegas. Do I have a moment, Larry?
You have a moment, Vic.
It's about...
A Damone moment.
Guys, and Don, I don't know if you remember this, but everyone, all the actors would get there about 5:45, all the singers, you know, we'd all get together and we'd go into the sauna at 6 o'clock. And they were always talking about the broads, the girls, you know, the girls. So I figured one night I'm going to really stick it to them. So I called a friend of mine who was a choreographer over at the Tropicana, and I said, I'll send over one of the nudes and have her get there at 10 after 6.
A nude girl to come to the sauna.
It's just to walk into the sauna, nude, and then I'd give her $50 and she leaves. So he said, okay. So sure enough, here comes, everybody gets in the sauna, and here she comes, 10 after 6, she's there. I walk her into the sauna, and all these big macho guys, here they are talking about the broads and everything. Who do you think? Everybody ran for a towel. They all ran for a towel, and the only guy that didn't run, and he was sitting up on the top rung of the sauna, was Dean, and all he said was, beautiful, beautiful. We had a lot of fun.
We'll be back with our remaining moments on this. Let's turn into now just a fun. Frank would have liked it like this.
Sure.
A tribute to Sinatra. Don't go away.
So darling, if all
Just give me 5 minutes and I'll have the other number ready.
I get a smoke.
Next number, boys.
What do you think the funeral will be like? We don't know when it's scheduled or anything. It will be announced shortly, we know. Steve, it's going to be like this, a kind of upbeat. You could do it as an upbeat funeral, or
I don't think it's going to you can.
You know, I mean, some people.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be more traditional. I think it's going to be a little more religious in feel and Catholic in flavor. And
will we hear his music?
I don't know.
I think so.
Know.
Should we?
I think Dean, rest his soul, his funeral, which I was at, and was an up-tempo kind of thing. It was a fun kind of thing. But I think with Frank, as Steve said, I think it'll be a very, very emotional event. It's a different situation and a different time, and I think it'll be very emotional. I just talking about it now, I feel.
This is a loss for all of us, right, Quincy? No matter where you are, your station in life, the bus driver, the actor, the band leader, the comedian, it's a loss for everybody.
It's surrealistic. It still hasn't hit me yet, because when somebody leaves that much music and that much spirit behind in all of us, it takes a long time to go away. I don't think it ever does.
Oh my God, 200 albums.
Incredible, huh?
1,800 songs. That's a life's work for a group of singers.
You know,
it's a big copying bill.
You know, Jerome Kern should really be paraphrased. He said something about Berlin, which I think applies to Frank Sinatra. Has no place in American music. Frank Sinatra is American popular music. And Jerome Kern said that, and it's paraphrasing something he said on Berlin, but I think it applies here very, very nicely.
And Ernie, he may have been as good an actor as he was a singer, right?
You're doggone right he was. You bet. Every inch of him.
And Vic?
Yes.
Would you agree? You agree?
You went into a coma after the man finished his statement.
I listened to what he said.
Yeah, but it wasn't. He didn't say Lincoln was shot. All he said was, you made it like it was something we're going to memorize and put in the book of life.
You know, I think you're right. I think
became young Kipper with you. It was nothing, he said.
I think Francis Albert Sinatra would have loved this roundtable discussion tonight with all his friends.
Yes, sir.
If Frank is watching.
Yes.
And
you know he's watching.
He's watching.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, then you're in trouble.
I'm clean. Whatever you say, Frank.
You're in trouble.
You keep it up, Larry. You're going to be. Those glasses are going to be punched out.
You know, Larry.
Yeah.
Can I just say something?
You may, Vic.
And I'm sure the guys will agree with me that one of the things he's left with us is his energy. I mean, think about Frankie. You watch every time you watch him on TV and you hear his recordings, there's always that energy. I don't know where he got it all. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah, he did. He brought great enthusiasm to his work, and also humor.
Great energy.
He was also the first American pop singer to bring some humor into music. I thought.
I thought so too. I did.
He brought everything there was.
Well, I was talking about humor, and I don't know.
You have a favorite song, Quincy? Favorite Sinatra song?
Oh, Jesus. All of them.
You blew it. You lost the prize.
Not a contest.
Favorite song? Oh, naturally, My Way. You know.
No, it's different. I agree with Quincy. I think all of them. It's like, what's your favorite? Yeah, it's impossible.
Well, My Way told his story. That's why I say it, because My Way told his story.
I like the way you look tonight.
Well, what do I care?
Yeah, true.
I like you in a blue hat.
Ernie, thanks. Vic, thanks. Thanks, guys. Say good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night. Good night, folks.
Good night.
In other words, I love you.